Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Carbonite Bounty BS with me and the nerds. How's everyone doing today?
Great. Yeah.
Welcome to a Carbonite Bounty BS with me and the nerds. Great to have another face, as we have a new member today, Tusken Raider, joining us. So it's always great to have you guys here, and great to have everybody here live as we go over another episode of the Book of Boba here. So this is our premiere episode, meaning live show we're doing for everybody. But before we dive into this, because we have a lot of points to talk about, let's let our guy DP let you guys know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com. People, make sure that you are going on that site and getting all our links to your favorite social media platforms. We are at Nerdcyclopedia on Facebook, Twitter, and also on Instagram. If you are watching us live on YouTube, make sure that if you like us, we know that you're going to like us, hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, head on over to that Carbonite Bounty BS Facebook group and make sure that you are watching us live there and commenting, giving us some feedback, chatting with everybody in the community. We love that as well. If you are listening to us on the radio, podcast, or whatever, make sure that you are subscribing to us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, Spotify, we are there. Leave us some feedback too. Nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com. We love your feedback and we love chatting with you.
What a great intro, guys. So, I'm not going to lead the intro into this one. We for you guys that aren't familiar with us, we have a lot of discussions offline before we go online. So it's all live, but I mean we do our own talking and whatnot. I'm kind of leaning toward DP was before he really, got into Star Wars. So I'm going to talk about the show from their perspective because I kind of feel now what they feel maybe for what a new fan would be. Personally, that's not my opinion, but I can see, and we'll hear from DP because I know he has his wife who's kind of an ultra neutral getting into it. But I'll hold my opinion for last. But let's start with Hitch here and get his opinion on the second episode and how he feels we are so far.
Well, this episode was really cool. I liked it a lot because it gave me an idea of, why Boba Fett is so dangerous. He's extremely resourceful, and he's the type of guy that can get things done. What's going on? This tribe is being hunted by this train, much like in the Old West when the train would roll through and they'd shoot all the buffalo just for no reason other than they could, right? This is damaging to the way of life of the Tusken Raiders. And Boba Fett feels like he owes these guys something because they saved him after he was just, out in the desert. And what's really cool about this is that it's a Star Wars train heist. And the heist is just the train. Like, they're not trying to steal anything out of it. It's a unique thing. They're just trying to crash this stupid train so they don't have to really be very careful, which is probably good since Tusken Raiders aren't the most careful of people. I like the action and the meat of the episode is all in the past. They stayed in one direction and they gave us a big hunk. And I liked it. Anytime a Mandalorian beats up a bully, it's always really cool. So you love seeing that for sure. I really like this episode a lot. I thought it really progressed the story. And again, they picked a lane, which they didn't do in episode 1. They didn't try to straddle this very much. They gave us a little taste of who's the villain in the next part. We see the Hutt twins. And then we go right back into, dances with Tusken Raiders.
What about you, Tusken?
Look at him, guys.
The unsung heroes of Tatooine got some screen time because really they got a bad rap. I mean, really, one scene of us destroying a land speeder and then getting scared off by an old Jedi Knight. Come on. We're more than that. We're a very diverse and educated people. We live on the land, and I think the whole episode is how Boba Fett learned some of his new skills, right? He was always good as a bounty hunter, and he had that down, but now he was looking for something more, and I think he looked to the Tusken Raiders to give him the on-the-land like skills, like how to survive, survivalist stuff. What if you have nothing but a tree branch? How do you live? how do you survive? And they gave him a really intense background because these people live on the sand, directly on the sand. They they rely on it. They dig in it to get water, milk, um, and the fact that they get picked on by this train that's coming through, it just gives Boba Fett a motivation and a way to get in with these people so he can get more training and prove himself that he's a viable ally for them. Uh, I watched this episode 3 or 4 times today, and each time I saw something different about it. And I think this was a great chunk to build on Boba Fett's um, like what he's going to become. Because at the beginning, I thought Boba Fett's not like a leader or some sort of warlord, but he's got an ulterior motive. He's a saver now. He's a savior, so he's going to look for to protect the weak and build up everybody's kind of build them back up after this whole devastation with the Empire. So I think this is an important episode, and I can't wait for the next 5 or 6 that we get here. But I think it's about time Tusken Raiders had some screen time, and we know a little bit about them and accept them now as a viable race of people that actually rule the planet of Tatooine.
Well said. What about you, DP?
Yeah, I mean the tap off with Tuscan, Tuscany, and everything. So yeah. So the Tuscan Raiders, I've heard of them. Never really paid attention to them. They really didn't have any type of background. And as I've heard and read, they were just sort of treated like just out there people. They didn't really have any background, so you could just look at them as like, okay, they are there. They had these crazy looking, outfits and stuff on. But this episode really, and even the first episode, which correlates into this episode, really gets into the meat of who they are and what their culture is. I'm really impressed on how Filoni and Favre are really developing their culture and how Boba, is adapting to that. How Boba is, teaching them some of his ways, among them teaching him, their ways and everything, and them accepting him into their tribe. The title episode was like the tribes of Tatooine and everything. So at the end, just like how we got in Mandalorian, we find out that there are different types, there are different tribes of Mandalorian. We're finding out that there are different tribes of Tusken Raiders and stuff. So that's an impressive thing. So how else, how do they separate themselves, apart from each other and everything? I mean, the whole episode it had so much meat to it, more than what we got last week. My wife actually dug it, this week. So it was a lot more plot. I mean, a lot simpler plot. Train hikes. Anybody could get with that. Train hikes. You train like some people who don't really know how to do it, and then execute. Bam, that's it. And then at the end, it had a great sequence with Boba getting the robes. And it's even though you really couldn't understand like the language and stuff with the subtitles and stuff, you understood the execution of it all. And that was something that she loved, and also I thought was just a great thing for me, watching this episode.
Yeah, I echo what everybody's saying. I really enjoyed this, but I think the underlying theme of this whole kind of series so far, and I guess from a neutral standpoint, I would understand it being. I feel, and we talked about it. Maybe this is like graduate level Star Wars. It's not really a series, and I'm sorry for the neutrals if you came in now and you thought that this was going to be The Mandalorian. This isn't. This is tying up a story that's well over 40 years old. To me, this is excellent work. This is, and Hitch alludes to history a lot of the time. I mean, this is your classic story of modern society coming in to maybe a country or a land, disturbing natives or culture that's already there, kind of punking them, pushing them around a little bit, poking them, and what happens when the natives and maybe somebody who wasn't a native, but more of a modern person, was dropped in that society, and they learn from them and ultimately become a one. So we've seen the story in history, we've seen this story in movies before. Really liked how they put it on this 42, maybe 43 minutes of an episode. Really liked the, it had a beginning and then the conclusion, like the runtime. I was a big fan, but I can understand that somebody coming into this maybe expecting, Din Djarin, Grogu, a lot more action. And when I mean action, I mean like Western. I thought the Mandalorian was more of a traditional Western. This is telling a finite story of really a man that was left for dead and kind of redemption, almost like a Tombstone type arc. So I'm really digging how it is going so far. I like the pacing. I'm liking it, but I can understand that this isn't a series yet for maybe your neutral, but more of a graduate level course, so to speak. If you were somebody into Star Wars and getting into Star Wars.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, my wife is below neutral. She's not even into Star Wars, and she understood like the concepts and everything that was going on. Like I said, last week was one thing. This week actually, got into like simpler plotting. And you understood like the characters' motivations and stuff. So I wouldn't necessarily discount this like graduate level Star Wars stuff for those who are actually hip to like the mythology and all that stuff. Yes, it may be because it's some references and maybe Easter eggs or stuff that may go over to like casuals' heads and stuff. But as far as like the plot and story itself, this was simple, straight, like Mandalorian, season 1 type stuff. You execute a plan, and then you make a plan and then you execute it. It was simple.
Yeah, I agree with DP for sure. Yeah. Because like the tropes of the Western, train heist, like you're saying, and this is the reflection of how the Western itself evolved over time. Dances with Wolves was one of those, and I was mentioning it because it's a kind of a similar plot structure where, like you were saying, Mitch, how it's, the natives adopt this outsider and he learns their lifestyle and kind of adopts the good parts of it, exactly like Dances with Wolves. And it's interesting because if Star Wars is a Western, the thing about Westerns is they are these trumpeting, jingoistic, positive statements about manifest destiny. And it's the cowboys versus the Indians and what, but the Indians are always the villains, right? And that's how Star Wars has developed as a Western. Now we're going into subversions of those tropes. So instead of the Tusken Raiders being nameless aggressors who murdered and kidnapped, the hero's mother, we're seeing why they're so harsh. We're seeing why their lifestyle is so tight. They're being oppressed. They're being pushed away from wealth. They're being pushed off of, trade routes they should have access to because they've lived there forever since the oceans dried up, is what they say, right? So it's interesting to see that sort of, sympathetic eye being sent to the Tusken Raiders, of all people, people so disposable that they're literally massacred by the romantic hero of one of the movies.
That was just a side note, though. I mean, that was like a little catalyst to like drive him down that dark path. So remember, also, we're still developing who Boba Fett is now. So we still have to have those big chunks of backstory and the build of his new, what he's becoming. His transformation from, a simple man wandering the universe to a warlord who's actually saving people and bringing people up. As he rises, he's bringing everyone up with him who will follow him. And I think the relationship that he's developing with the Tuskens is, I think it's poetic, because here's a people that, yes, you're right, they are looked upon as savages. Nobody understands them. I mean, look how I'm dressed. Are you inviting me anywhere? Are we going to the movies? Are we going to get a beer? No. Look, you don't even know how to deal with this, right? So they're separated. There's no one else on Tatooine that acts or looks like these people. And Boba Fett sees strength. He sees, he sees intelligence, and he sees perseverance, and he's like, I need that. I need that right now. And I think he's going to continue to bond with them. And I'll bet you we see the same sort of themes going for episode 3 and 4, where we're still seeing the challenges that they face, the challenges that he faces, until he blooms into what we see where he confronts the twins in the middle of Mos Espa, which was a great scene. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see him kick that Wookiee's ass, but on the other hand, bloodshed is bad for business, right? The Hutts are so smart. They know that they just can't go kill people and expect everyone else to fall in line. So they have a little bit of, forethought too, but what do I know? I'm wrapped up in rags, and I have shot glasses for eyes.
So I was reading a little bit up on the Wookiee. So he's from like the Darth Vader comic, huh? So he's been he's called like the black Kurskanskin or something. I mean, hashtag hate DP if I'm just butchering that. But so I suppose he's from the comic, and I love the way that they're taking elements that's canon from the comic into this, because he has a history with I guess with Boba Fett.
The way they looked at each other. They're like,
yeah,
we're gonna go. Oh, wait, no, we're not. Maybe later.
Why don't that guy doesn't show up and they don't fight? Come on, they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight. Again, a Western. That's the guy with the black hat rolls into town, spinning his guns. There's gonna be a shootout. You can't not pay that off. And I can't wait. Looking forward to it. I was almost hopeful it was going to be Cad Bane, but it's okay. I think this awesome looking evil Wookiee. I mean, I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take a Wookiee villain any day of the week. Those guys, they're always formidable, and it explains right away why he can't just go knock these guys off right away, right? He's got to deal with the Wookiee first. So you love to see that. It injects a little bit of chaos. I want to say I really enjoyed the design of the Hutt twins and their litter that was bowed in the center from the massive weight of these enormous slugs.
Did you see the guys in the front carrying them?
Yeah, they were like,
yeah. They almost that was great attention to detail.
These guys have a real weight. They look good, and so it's good to see the effects budget in Star Wars paying off. Some of the shots they're using, the volume makes some of the shots look almost like just live action. You know what I mean? They look almost regular or almost TV-ish just because they're so clear. And so it's good to see that when the effects budget is used, it's used well. And I thought the Hutts looked great. I like the whole detail of them with the little props, the fan and the terrified snack. Like that whole bit. Great villain introduction for just a little snippet. You get a lot of what their personality is real fast just from how they act, which is always really good world building.
Right. I'm just glad we didn't get the Hutt from the Clone Wars.
All painted up.
Yeah, right. So, and that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, to see that the family is kind of coming and everybody's trying to come stake claim, it makes you wonder, who else now that the Hutt's gone is, they said it, that throne is empty and a lot of people are gunning for it. Who else may we see try to come for this throne? I mean, it's opened your eyes to a lot. Right now, Han and Chewie are somewhere. Do we get, a sighting or? He's had issues with the Hutts in the past, so now that the Hutt is gone, do we see them? I'm just excited for this. I really like how this is going. But yeah, I understand.
If Solo ever appeared, man, the crowd would just go crazy. Well,
I mean, come on, we saw Luke Skywalker. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. Cool.
I'm just saying.
Literally, Luke Skywalker in 1989, right? Mark Hamill in 1989 showed up on the last TV show they did in this series. So you're right. Anything can happen, and that rules. So we'll see what happens next. This Wookiee could be the main arc bad. It could all go down next week. there's no way to know what happens next, and that's pretty cool. We're getting brand new tail end stories about Boba Fett where he has no plot armor. That's cool stuff.
Yeah. We spent a lot in like the past. I'm loving like kind of the sand stuff reminds me so much of Doom, which I he got a lot of influence from anyway and everything.
That's the spice. That's what the train was carrying.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, "Are you carrying spice?" And they're like, "What's that?" And then
hey guys,
that.
He said that stuff.
That's spice. Oh, hey, what's that? How'd that get there? We don't. What is this? What is it? What is a murder?
We're just carrying. What do they say? We're just carrying water.
Yeah,
we're just carrying water. Like, okay.
Oh man! And then,
what is this? I don't understand. What is this spice? How does this work?
How at the end of Dune, he was and Tratus, is that how you pronounce his name? Sure. He was taken. He was well, not taken, but he was sort of taken in by the tribe. So this is sort of like the same thing. Boba is being taken in by the tribe and everything. So I'm seeing a lot of Doom in these last two episodes so far.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you see the robes at the end, that finite end to maybe the original trilogy. Him putting on that robe is bringing us closer to that current timeline with the Mandalorian. It's now, I mean, the next thing in his flashback setting obviously is finding where the hell his ship is, right?
Boba Fett's ship.
Yeah, we'll say the ship. So anyway,
Boba Fett's ship.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fett's ship. So I mean that will come into play at some sort, I imagine, soon as he's looking for his ship and his armor. As I like to call back into kind of the lizard, evoking the memories, kind of that memory recollection, and it kind of brought me to that scene in what was it, Black Panther, when he kind of got in the soil and what it does to invoke. So I really love the attention to detail they did in the kind of that snap to jar his memory back on to get him to kind of understand who he was before he came back to the sand. So I'm really digging this so far. Really, really enjoying the show.
Yeah. Very great attention to detail. With just like I said before, developing their whole culture and their whole tribe, developing the weapon. I believe we saw that weapon in Mandalorian, right? He was this is how he got it and how he got made. Yep. Love that whole sequence. Yeah,
the gaffy stick. So there's a lot behind that, right? So all the Tusken Raiders, each one as they develop, they grow from a boy to a man. They have to go find the branch. They have to find their weapon. It's gonna speak to them, and Boba had to go find his. Now I'm thinking, I went to Galaxy's Edge and I built a lightsaber. So am I going to go back and be able to build my own gaffy stick now?
Oh, like Wonder Boy.
Me up. I want to.
Those are already in production.
Chisel the head and put the spike in the end and build the blades and everything. And Boba Fett's like, "Is this right? Is this right? Is this how this works?" And the guy's like, "Yep. You go."
It's like an Amazing Race challenge.
Yeah,
it was such a video game task, and this show is starting to have a little bit of that Grand Theft Auto thing where you walk into the cutscene and you're like, okay, I will take the assassin back to the guy, and then you take it in. And it's like, now there's new missions you can access with the Hutt twins, and you can fight the Wookiee, and you can go back in if you want to go back into the casino and settle that. You can do that too. Boba Fett has a lot on his plate. And that's good because it means
about Mandalorian too. It's sort of like a video game-ish, like from week to week. He's going through different
mission
stuff.
Based. Little challenges, missions. With an end result, a reward, or another challenge. Right?
I would pay.
You got to do something else now.
I would pay upwards of $60 to live that experience. Disney.
60?
Just a hint.
60 a night. 60 a night.
No, I'm talking about the actual game. Make it. Just make it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, they have
We'd
that
buy
new
that.
game of production we've seen, which is going to be really cool. But I mean, yeah, this is a real life RPG. You know, we have our conflict. You have your choose your path. You know, light side, dark side. You know, A, B, C, D consequences. Literally, when you're saying this, I can see this playing out as like you know, with the Western, kind of like a Red Dead, kind of like a,
Yeah.
Red
you
Dead
know, your
Redemption.
Western type,
Yeah.
yeah, open world game where you can go back, you walk the land. I think if they did a Star Wars open world, which was a rumor, this would be like a perfect setting for it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that'd be great.
it would be, you know, you
Go to
pick,
Boba Fett's palace, right? And he's just
right?
like, "Welcome to my palace. We run on respect. Go over to this and collect this, and then do this with the
Yeah.
sand people." I guess.
Um, it lays the groundwork definitely for a video game, and it kind of has that fun format, like we said in The Mandalorian. Um, Kind of interested to hear you guys' thoughts. So we have kind of our first conflict with Boba and Fennec as far as, you know, maybe false accusations. We know he went to the mayor's palace, which off the bat I cannot stand his assistant. I'm
Mhm.
like waiting
Oh
for him.
yeah, who
I'm
is
waiting
that
for him to
guy?
off. I don't know. I'm waiting for him to off him. Like just end it. But yeah, we find out that falsely, you know, as of now, they're not involved. It's the Huts, but you know, I don't think that chapter's closed with the mayor and him, and you know, the little bit of tribute he offered him before he left. So I think that mayor has more to play in this season, so to speak.
Yeah,
It's got
definitely.
his assistant kind of gave me Jar Jar vibes. Hitch. I'm being honest. I didn't like
Well,
him at all.
that guy's job is to be unctuous and unflappable. So like I understand the portrayal. I think I love the dude that he was dealing with first. That was like, well, you have an assess. You're not on the list. You know what I mean? He's just too. He's just there to be stupid. You know what I mean? On purpose to be like, I don't have you on the list. You can't see the mayor. It's like we're here to. It's like I'm holding like a shotgun. The guy's like, oh, I'm too stupid to be intimidated by that. You know what I mean? I love I love that. But I like that the mayor's major domo is an obsequious like you hate him. I think that's great for that character because the
Yeah,
whole point is that is that he's really you don't want to deal with him, right? If you can get away with not having to talk to that guy, you would get away with it, right? So it makes you want to cut the mayor out. And who knows what the deal is there? That's a whole that's going to be a whole power struggle, which is great to see. You'll love to see conflict in your television shows that are based around control over this city. You want to see them fight, damn it, and that's what we're gonna get, and you gotta love it. Another great setup, but
Yes.
maybe we're getting to the point where that's enough setup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was about to say that. I mean, we dealt a lot with the past in this. I'm definitely going to want to hope the next episode deals a lot more in the present than what was happening in the past. I understand the past and definitely love like the build up and love and like how it's setting up whatever's going to happen in the present. But I hope like the next episode focuses a lot more on the present instead of him going like doing flashbacks and stuff.
yeah, I think they've got a balance now. I think they can go back. They can make it more heavy on the present and just lighter on the flashback. They still have to keep that going because I think there's still
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff there.
yeah.
But if it's a half-hour episode, I think 20 minutes of it is going to be present action, and there might be maybe 5 to 7 minutes of flashback. I think
Well, who knows? It was 50 minutes this week.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like
so
40 minutes like that.
I
Yeah.
think they've got a lot of they have a lot of foundation built already. I think they just go ahead and give it like present day, find out what's going on with the twins. Is that really the conflict?
Yeah.
Does the mayor maybe? I mean, I don't know. That's still real weird to me. I think there's still
Right.
something there. And then the bartender or the bar owner, there's
There's a
something
lot of
going
pieces on
there
the board
too.
right now, and you're like, it's like when you're playing chess, and both people have that regular, like one of those positions where it's like, tack, 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 like there's going to be like 30 pieces are going to disappear from the board in 2 moves, and it's like deciding which one goes first. You know what I mean? So there's going to have to be someone coming off the board soon. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the mayor? Is it going to be the casino owner? Is it going to be the twins and the Wookiee? Who's coming up first? We'll see next week, right? Like you get an idea. So cool. And it doesn't matter which one they deal with first because you got to deal with them all. So just choose, get the power up and then go do the next one, right? That's how these work.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm interested to see though as well. I mean, as of right now, even before the flashbacks with the current stuff, I mean, he's pretty banged up. So I'd
Yeah.
like to get more backstory on him. I mean, he needs that back to tank more than Vader did. Like this guy's literally like in it every hour. Like, why is he so injured? If we get into that story, what's wrong with him? Is it like terminal? At this point, maybe this is like, the slow death of Boba. Maybe, who knows? I think they'll keep the character around for a while, but I'm really interested to see like the healing phase, of how much he needs that back to tank because he seems to be hopping in at after every battle, after every day. Is it more of a relaxation thing at this point?
Yeah.
Or is it more really, truly healing some of these injuries that, have happened over this past leading us to the current point?
Maybe he just doesn't let it work. Like maybe he needs to stay in there for a week, and he's like, "No, an hour is good. I got other stuff to do." And he doesn't really let it do its job. Maybe if he just
Right.
stayed in the tank for a week, it'd be done. But
I said open the tank, but
That
it's
would
really
give
not
us-
smart.
That will give us a perfect Fennec Strand episode. Let's just focus on her, because I mean she's a badass, what I'm saying? I mean, I'd love to see like just her for a majority of an episode, and I think that may be coming, something.
DP, usually in a bottle episode, all the characters are in a bottle, not just one in a bottle, and then everybody does other stuff. That's not usually how it works. You mean something different. So it'd be a real tropian version, and I love those things. So.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Bottle of Boba Fett.
It's funny in this universe how I mean we're watching like Rebels, Clone Wars, Bad Batch, so we're like in deep with like Filoni, and his squad and everything. But we haven't really seen Filoni besides Mandalorian, and now this even more so, just deal in the desert for the most of the time, more or less. Their stories have been like more space, up, traveling like from planet to planet. We're here in just one spot, for the majority of the time, and it's funny how they still carry that deep character development because it must be a thing on their on their board, what do you call
Storyboard,
it?
yeah.
Storyboard, whatever they're calling it. Story character has to be first, then everything else comes after that. And I just appreciate that just so much because it makes it more palatable for everyone else, for like the casuals to come in and really get in tune with like these characters and stuff. Tusken Raiders, they have their characters now. You actually feel for them, and like the one at the end, sort of going towards the end, the little Tusken, who was helping Boba with his robes and everything. Well, not helping, but after he got out the tent, he was carrying Boba, or he took Boba by the hand and by the arm or whatever, and was just you sort of like got a little character out of that little one. So I mean, it's some really good stuff right there.
Yeah, that younger kind of Tusken Raider reminded me of the kid who followed Neo around in the Matrix, who was like his idolized him. That kind of
Yeah.
like that brought me those vibes. So I do like that, and also like you're saying, this whole sand scene. I mean, the production is just amazing. Like the way they rode the speeders after they stole them, the way it looks. I mean, I'm excited. I hope we can get a pod race to see that. Like with this current production style, how they're doing these, like phenomenal shots. I mean, the way it was smoking, you seen them race, the way it blew up. I mean, this looks so realistic. Like even Hitch saying the depth of these shots, like you would think they're literally in like Dubai somewhere, Arizona, just shooting this
Oh
live.
man, yeah.
It's just exceptional work. So I'm just loving it. And like Hitch said, this was shot during a pandemic, and where most of these locations, most of these scenes, most of this work couldn't be done. I mean, we've seen films suffer outside of maybe Marvel, because of loss of production, ability to travel. This is missing no beat as far as what I'm seeing, and to me, it's visually stunning.
Yeah. I mean,
The
the whole
stunts are
thing.
excellent. Whatever stunts there are,
Right. Yeah.
the pacing, the design, all the effects. It's funny. It's funny. Like there are some shots where it's like where they're walking with the Gamorreans who are just like, they look Star Trekky because they looked Star Trekky in the old movies, right? That's just a piece of it, and you're
That's
like
it.
thinking to yourself, is this going to be something where it's almost like Star Trek TNG level effects, right? Where it looks, for the time okay, but they spent a little money on it, and then they do something like this whole train heist scene on speeders where they're driving, they're flying around, and you can see again the control mechanisms for an awesome video game. Here we go, lean this, and you already have it set up. I want to see pod races. I want to see them tackle those action sequences using the modern effects, because I think there has been an epoch change where nothing that we've seen in Star Wars shouldn't be done over. And that's the case. I mean, and not plotting like we're seeing between certain similarities with things that were made at similar times in other shows that we're talking about. But, if you show me a pod race now, it's going to look different. It's going to be more personal. It's going to be more visceral. Maybe the plotting will be a little different. And there's the Tusken Raider pod goes into, we can do that. It's possible. I want to see it. I want to see, maybe not exactly a trench run, but I want to see some Starfighter stuff, a really good long Starfighter sequence like we get in Rebels or something like that. The technology exists. And if it's making these things affordable for Disney, it means that they can tell the types of stories they want with these characters. Like if Han Solo drops in, hey, it'll look normal because they have the money to make it look right.
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, Disney can start taking, because we're now in the present in the timeline, sort of. We're real up to date, so they can take all these different characters and different storylines and kind of stick them together any way they want, and it'll look like it was supposed to be there. I mean,
yeah.
Who knows? I mean, this could be. I mean, this thing is slated for however many seasons. I mean, this could go for 10 years.
They're planting seeds. How about that? The bar scene. I mean, it's like a cartoon. I mean, they show the shadow of him, coming in.
Right,
and then he comes in and just kicks butt, and then just leaves and takes their bikes.
It's like a little Terminator scene.
Right.
It's kind of the opposite of what Din Djarin did.
Your clothes.
Exactly.
Your bike and your clothes.
Yeah.
Your boots. I don't think so, buddy. Sure, then he beats them all up and takes the stuff anyway. It's awesome. Every time you get a scene like that, it's awesome. It was awesome in those movies. It was awesome in Mandalorian episode 1. Really awesome to see a Mandalorian take a bar over like that. And I like that they kept like the hairstyles on the locals looked like they were right out of the 70s. It looked like,
Right.
I thought the design on them was really cool. I was like, is this Luke Skywalker's friends from those deleted scenes or something like that?
Oh, maybe. Well, there was Biggs Darklighter. There was a Carrie, someone else, a female character too, that he was supposed to meet, but his uncle wouldn't let him go.
There's power converters at Tosche Station.
Power converters at Tosche Station. What are those? Power converters. Give me a box of them.
Yeah, right. Just like light bulbs. It's like, I need light bulbs. No, Luke, you can't have fun and go buy industrial
light
equipment.
Bulbs for you. Get back.
What 17-year-old doesn't want to buy a bunch of industrial equipment?
Right.
I thought we were going to get like a little bit more out of the locals, but I guess they were just there just to drive that scene. So I mean, it was a good scene, because we're not really seeing many human characters besides Boba and Fennec. So it was just interesting to see those two, that couple there, and they only just been used and dispensed of just like that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind though, I mean, a lot of the city is, because the Hutts kind of controlled the inner city kind of Tatooine. A lot of the humans were on the outskirts, like the Lars Harmstead and whatnot, because a lot of them, were, in some of them cases, were taken as as slaves and whatnot. So I think as we see, Boba venture in current time outside of the city, maybe we'll get a lot more of those stories. It's so many characters to see. I mean, and who knows? They're doing these tie-ins. Who says we don't see a quick view of Ahsoka? Because as of right now, she's kind of still on the run. Nobody can find her. She's traveling just like he is. Looking for someone, something. So You know, the story is wide open, and that's what I like. Is it's just like an RPG. It's kind of like choose your path at this point, and that's what I like about this story. It's choose your path. It's not like, oh, here's what comes next. Here's what this is. You know, it's not laid down for us that we automatically know what's going to happen. I like the suspense right after every
Yeah,
episode.
the with the Ahsoka thing, I kind of hope they don't go that route. I mean, leave her for her own thing. I think the natural element will be to bring in like the crime stuff, like Han Solo and like Chewie and stuff. I think that will be the more natural way to go about stuff. And like I said, if you want to just set the crowd on fire and make them roar and everything, yeah, bring Solo in. I mean, that'll like I said before, that'll just be just an awesome thing to see to tie in.
That would be a huge gunfight. I mean, we're talking. They're both going to shoot first. We're not going to know what. I mean, that would be huge if Han walked down the main street of Mos Espa, or up to Jabba's palace, and no, I don't know. That would really turn the story in a different direction.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, we got two guys that love the casinos in the current time and just shot movies, right? We have Lando and we have Han. So, I mean, we have two actors who just recently played him. Who says that we don't get a quick cameo? I mean, that will be epic to me. That will be
Epic.
I mean, if Donald Glover's on basic cable, he can come on this. Right? He's on FX. He can come on this. So I feel like that's definitely legit. And who's to say that you can't make Han Solo work now? I think things are different now that the sequel trilogy is over, and we are now interested in this exact time, and we've seen Luke Skywalker, and like you said, there's just not somebody else playing Luke Skywalker other than Mark Hamill. So yeah, you want to deep fake that, but you have other guys that you can bring in. And look, what's great about this is next week they could deal with any of the threats that are on the table, or literally the Millennium Falcon could show up and it's like, okay, pause. We are going to deal with this. And there's no way to say that would be good. They would both be equally valuable as an episode. They'd both be 10s, right? Luke Skywalker would show up and be like, hey, remember when you teamed up with my buddy, this guy, the Mandalorian? Everybody, hey!
Like a large clap and everything.
Get out of here, Mandalorian!
And it flows like right in what Filoni's stuff they did with Clone Wars and especially with Rebels, with Lando just arbitrarily just showing up out of nowhere. They want to deal with that guy, Lando. Oh man, yeah. Mm-hmm. This is, I mean, these storytellers are natural in their progressions and how they tell a story. So it wouldn't seem forced because we know that the story is in good hands.
And we know that Boba Fett's exact twin sister, who does not have the aging stuff, so she is exactly Boba Fett's age, normal age, middle age, right? Like however old Tamora Morrison is, like 48 or whatever. I'm guessing.
Right.
I mean, he looks great, looks incredible. So Omega can just show up, and that would change the entire, that would change everything about Bad Batch, the cartoon series. I
would be more hyped probably than Solo if that happened.
Shows up the blonde hair. Hello, I'm your sister. Just starts cutting people up. You know what I mean? Like, I've had a fun time with me friends, and they're just old men, just tearing people apart. It could really work out, and you don't need many more actors. I would love to see something like that, but I don't want them to even. I don't know. I feel like there's other ways to handle that, but if you showed me that old Captain Rex show up, and you just put that old age CGI in there, I think you could tell some cool stories that way.
Right,
man, it's good that there's a lot of places for them to go, and we're not talking about there only being 6 episodes of Star Wars TV this year at all. We're talking about this nestling it as being one of many projects. So, we talked about how when it's one movie and it's 3 years and it's another movie, it's a certain, it has to be a certain way. But now we're talking about seeing, Boba Fett will return in the spring with, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I guess, because they're just, they're getting a lot out of the Tatooine budget.
Right.
Well, I mean, with the fact that these Disney Plus shows are only 6 to 7 episodes, maybe 8 at the most and everything, they're giving you just enough for you to want more,
Mm-hmm.
So by the time another one comes up, you're just like, yes. I needed that. You know, it's so much content on nowadays anyway. You pretty much want your favorite stuff.
We're just waiting for the spice truck to show up. They
The
just
spice truck.
Disney's feeding us the spice, man. You know,
Here comes the
wanting
spice.
more, right?
Everyone get a bowl. Come on.
Exactly.
Get a hit of that spice, and don't move forever. You're gonna sit here and watch Disney Plus forever. That's what they almost have us. You know how many how many hours of television is equates one like a season of a regular old network series, right? Like 25 hours, and we're pretty much going to be there. So we almost have the Star Wars anthology series set up like it was running on ABC since Disney owns ABC. And we're getting that, and that is insane. And if you go back in time to us long-term fans, go back to 2005 for me and be like, yo, the Boba Fett TV series is pretty good, but it's not as good as the old one where they had Luke Skywalker on the last one. I'd flip out. My head would explode. I'd just be sitting there like Millhouse with my watch, like, oh, is it 2000? Like, it was a 2020. So it's awesome to see all this stuff and they're doing the story right. Like I understand why now Boba Fett wants to be a leader the right way, right? They made him want to be a leader the right way. It changed him. And so that's character development away from the mercenary, away from he's no good to be dead, right? Away from all of that.
And that was something that I thought they better do that right, because to me, knowing who Boba Fett was, he wouldn't want anything to do with this. Right. So what's the reason? What made him sort of change? He went through a lot in the Sarlacc pit, and then he went through a lot just as challenge to get back, and then he met the Tusken Raiders, and they beat him up. They beat him up for days, and then he saw value to that. I mean, he saw something in there that changed him. So they built that story right. They thought about it, and it was sensitive, and I think they did a good job.
And he's done a similar redemption with Fennec as well. I mean, she was left for dead in the sands, and he was the one to bring her back. So it's kind of, the story on top of the story. So like you're saying, I really appreciate that kind of the arc they've given him. And it's funny because a lot of people look at him still as this bounty hunter that he's even not. He says I'm not a bounty hunter. So he already has this false depiction on his head already that he's trying to shake.
But I mean, it's not like he had a falling out with the Tusken Raiders. They're not going to show us that. So I mean, if these guys mess with him and he just calls on his army of the tribes to just show up, and it's like, we severely underestimated what he was up to, and the reason he doesn't have to show hard power all the time is because if he snaps his fingers, an untold army of Tusken Raiders is going to show up with gaffy sticks and overwhelm whatever you have.
The protection of the Tusken Raiders. That's what he told those slavers or whatever they were, the train people. That's what he said. You will be fine to Anchorhead because you're under the protection of the Tuskens. That's
got to be valuable. And so that would be what if they're telling that story about how the reason that he's the daimyo is because he cultivated all this power with the Tuskens and they showed up and they've got rid of the Hutts. It's going to make a lot of sense why they're spending all this time and showing his development as a leader and development of the character. It could be a direction they're going. I obviously don't know. I'm an idiot. Like, what do I know? We've seen it.
Classic storytelling 101. When you spend a lot of time, in the past, it's going to something about that past is going to take place in the present. It's going to tie it all together and stuff.
But if we're at a third, the third point, the 1/3 point in the story, and there's basically Act 2 could go any direction.
Yeah,
I think that says a lot about how good the setup has been and how well they're treating this character, because Boba Fett is, if it's not a Skywalker, there's no one closer to the inner circle of Star Wars than Boba Fett. Like, that character is as much Star Wars as any of the rest of the saga characters, the real royalty. And so I think that they have an obligation to do a good sheeter if they're going to do a one-sheeter to set up the status quo of, post Jedi Star Wars or post Return of the Jedi Star Wars. And I think they're doing it the right way. And I think that these are some crucial weeks here where we're going to see what is the real meat of this story. And I think that, these next episodes are either going to be 10s out of 10s or we're going to be going, this was a fizzle. So I'm excited to see episode 3. How do you top a train heist? How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, I bet before we wrap up here, how do you guys feel about the where they're treating Boba Fett so far? Like combined with what we've seen in the Mandalorian up to like right now, with a couple episodes. This has been a character you guys have been wanting to see for so long. And like his development and who he is and stuff. How are you guys liking it so far?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, I like I said in the beginning, I wasn't sure how they were going to like do this, develop this whole story, and sort of drop us in to this present day. Boba Fett has re-imaged himself. I think it's great. It's almost if I had been given the paper and pen and told write this story and what do you think would happen with Boba Fett, that would be really similar to what this is. I mean, I think he's still a strong character. I think he's still going to be someone that people are going to like gravitate toward. I think they're doing a very good job with it. Totally. I want him to get his armor. I want to see how that happens. I know the Jawas have it, but I want to see how he gets it.
So, like for me, I think they're treating the character great, and I'm excited to see them, show us a little bit more of this particular backstory. I want to see, the one thing that's maybe missing for me that I want to see more of, and there's some of this, but I want to see that that line Han Solo delivers on Jabba's on Jabba's skiff on the barge where he goes Boba Fett like that, and there's this sense of the name has this like where everybody in the underworld is like, oh, I don't want them to see Boba Fett on me.
Right.
So I hope that after maybe what they're saying is that's how he gets his name back as he deals with these threats. But I want to see there be a little bit of like Boba Fett walks in and everyone's like, I want to see that a little bit more. And I think they're trying to do that some with the casino, but I want to see it more and more.
That's right. Yeah, that fear factor almost, you're looking for people to get from him that when he walks in the room. But yeah, I echo everything you guys have said, and like I said, I mean, I love this show. I like the way it's going. To me, though, personally, I think it's a graduate level Star Wars show. I guess a neutral can watch, but I mean, as far as if you would let somebody who hasn't seen it, who hasn't seen Mando, but this is a big name. He's on Mount Everest, of Star Wars. So you say this name and you start watching this. The first one and the two, it's starting to pick up momentum, which is a good thing. But I think it's graduate level work, and it's the graduate level work meaning attention to detail. Because once again, this is well over 40 years of information we're trying to tell in a 6 to 8 episode run, right? So the way they're doing it, the pacing is fine. I mean, we've had shows that we discuss on our channel here that's been running for 4 seasons, some 6 seasons, some over a span of 12 years that don't cover things this thoroughly, this quickly. So it just, like we're talking about, goes to show the storytelling where it's come, where technology has come, in this, really short space of time, since Disney Plus and these series has kind of kicked off, that where we are now. So I'm digging everything I'm seeing. But yeah, guys, to kind of wrap, today's episode up, really appreciate everybody tuning in to our live stream as always. Please check out our other shows. Our screen pop came up. We have Rebels, which is a great cartoon, arguably the best Star Wars animated series. So, we do that weekly. You'll be seeing one coming up here, so we won't mess that up. So you guys will be seeing our review end of season 3. So I look forward to watching that for you guys. And also, as DP always says, please shoot us an email at Nerds and Nerdcyclopedia. If you want to interact with us, we have Facebook, a plethora of different avenues we're on. If you have a streaming service that you subscribe to content, whether viewing or listening, we're usually there. So look for us, find us, like, subscribe, share, and pass on the word, guys. And until next week, this is the way.